morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So good to see you, and is everything ready to go? Just warming up, I think. Okay. So I'm here at Vista, and so happy to be here. I don't get to come too often. For those of you who maybe don't know what the rotation or situation here is at Vista, I'm a member of the Orange County Buddhist Church in Orange County. And we have a rotating list of ministers and ministers' assistants and assistant ministers who come here every week and twice a month every week on Sunday and twice a month on Wednesdays for meditation service. And so I'm part of this rotation, but at OCBC I'm also the high school Dharma school teacher. And so I usually have about 50 or so children that I teach. And so during the Dharma school year, I'm kind of really involved with them. So it's harder for me to come down to Vista to do my rotation. So I get less of the assignment. But it's the summer, Dharma school is over, and so I am here today. I'm very happy to be here, by the way. I was especially happy to be here because this gives me an opportunity to share a couple of really amazing experiences that I had just last month in July. I was at the Jodo Shinshu Center, and for those of you who don't know what that is or where it is, it's up in Berkeley. All of our temples are part of something called the Buddhist Churches of America. And about 10 years ago, we built this building called the Jodo Shinshu Center in Berkeley, California, kind of behind the Berkeley Buddhist Temple. They have a common back property line, but it's a separate entity, and it is a beautiful building, and it is, for me, the heart and the future of Jodo Shinshu in America. This is a building where Dharma members of all across the BCA can come and gather for various seminars, retreats, opportunities for learning. I was speaking with Glenn Kameda, who is the facilities director, and he told me that every year he books approximately 900 events at the Jodo Shinshu Center. And it is an amazing center for all of us who are part of Jodo Shinshu, and a place for us to learn. One of the things that happens there is the Institute of Buddhist Studies, which is a graduate seminary institution, and that's where they have training and classes, and I'm actually currently a student there in a Masters of Buddhist Studies program, and I'm getting close to the end of that and have to write a thesis, which I'm not going to think about until next year because I've got a few other things in between. But in the meantime, so I was at the Jodo Shinshu Center on 2 occasions last month in July, and I'm going to tell you about both of them today. First, during this Dharma talk, and then for the adult study, I will talk about the other opportunity I had. So the first thing I did at the beginning of July, from July 1 to the 7th, I participated in, I want to make sure I do this right, the 2018 BCA Summer Youth Retreat. So as a high school student, as a high school teacher, I'm very, very interested in youth education. And being a high school teacher, this was a perfect opportunity for me to be involved with this youth retreat. It is a retreat that was held for high school students. We had 20 students participate from all across the BCA, and they were there for a week of basically Buddhist boot camp. And from morning till night, they were involved in Buddhist activities, learning about how to perform services, how to do chanting, how to lead chanting services. But they also were privy to some of the most amazing teachers that we have in our BCA. We're privy to some of the most learned ministers who are in the area, and we also had opportunities to listen to some of the professors that also teach at the Institute of Buddhist Studies at the graduate level. There were field trips for them to explore various other temples that were in the area. They went to a very significant cemetery that has the names of all the BCA ministers that have come and gone since 1899 when Jodo Shinshu first came to the West, or came to San Francisco. Anyway, it was an amazing experience, and they were an amazing group of students. So here's the 20 students, very smiling faces. This is them looking pretty normal and very proper. This is an example of a barbecue, and they basically did a trust wheel. They supported each other with their legs and leaned on each other, and that's why they could raise their hands up into the air. And it was all orchestrated by one of the students. They had this crazy person from San Mateo who just, organized all these things that they did. This song, Ondoka-san, that we just sang, one day we did a tour of the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, of Berkeley campus, because the Berkeley, or the Jodo Shinshu Center is right very near to the Berkeley campus. So they did this tour, and everybody went off in their different groups to do different things. But then at lunchtime, we all gathered together for lunch, kind of near the student union, but we were outside, kind of in the grass. In the middle of this big walkway on the Berkeley campus was this old piano, and it was just kind of there. I guess it just stays there in all kinds of weather, so it's obviously way out of tune, and it's a little bit, warped. And but we had some musicians in our group, so they gathered at this piano and started singing gathas, which are our songs. And Ondoka-san was one of the songs that they sang and sang and sang. And they were singing this at the top of their voice in the middle of the Berkeley campus. So it was really an amazing experience for them. So I look at these faces, and they're all wearing the T-shirt that we gave them. It's a big head of a Buddha on the T-shirt. And on the back it says 2018 BCA Youth Retreat. So that was kind of one of their mementos. Plus they also got a Motoshiki show, which is kind of like one of these neck things that you get. So these are the names that they chose for themselves. They were in 3 groups, and they had chores. They had to be responsible for various things, including cleanup and food preparation and competitions. So they picked their own names, and so you see their names were Buddhist, Siddharthas, Sunflowers, and the Buddhist. And I'm not sure what, I guess blue was their favorite color. Anyway, so one of the things that they were responsible for, as I mentioned, they each took turns leading services, and we had services twice a day, and they had to do leader lines for chanting the Shoshin-ge, which for some of us who know the Shoshin-ge, that's a somewhat daunting thing to be a leader up here on the Naiji, to lead in front of everyone. But one of the most important things that I enjoyed from that week was that they all had to do a Dharma talk. And so we heard from 20 high school students about Buddhism, their perspective, what they learned, what they have taken from Buddhism. And so what I have done is lifted one of their Dharma talks. I thought, wow, I'm going to use this. This is really a wonderful opportunity to kind of share one of the Dharma talks. So I'm going to do that this morning. So here we go. I'm going to share this book. is Spoon. This is Spoon's family. On Sundays, Spoon goes to visit his Aunt Silver. He has to be on his very best behavior there. She's very fancy and proper. Goodbye, darling. Ta-ta. At bedtime, Spoon likes to hear the story about his adventurous great-grandmother who fell in love with a dish and ran off to a distant land. Lately, though, Spoon has been feeling blue. What's wrong? Asked his mother. You look a bit bent out of shape. Nothing, mumbled Spoon. It's just that, I don't know, all my friends have it so much better than me. Like Knife. Knife is so lucky. He gets to cut. He gets to spread. I never get to cut or spread. Yes, Knife is pretty spiffy that way, isn't he? And Fork. Fork is so lucky. She gets to go practically everywhere. I bet she never goes stir crazy like I do. Fork does get out and make herself useful, doesn't she? And Chopsticks, they are so lucky. Everyone thinks they're really cool and exotic. No one thinks I'm cool or exotic. Those Chopsticks are something else, aren't they? Meanwhile, if only Spoon knew what his friends were saying at that very minute. Spoon is so lucky, said Knife. He's so fun and easygoing. Everyone's so serious with me. No one ever is allowed to be silly with me like they are with Spoon. Spoon is so lucky, said Fork. He gets to measure stuff. No one ever does that with me. Spoon is so lucky, said Chopsticks. He can go places by himself. We could never function apart. That night, after bedtime stories, Spoon's mom turned off the light, tucked him in and said, You know, Spoon, I wonder if you realize just how lucky you are. Your friends will never know the joy of diving headfirst into a bowl of ice cream. They'll never know what it feels like to clink against the side of a cereal bowl. They'll never be able to twirl around in a mug or relax in a hot cup of tea. Hi. Spoon hadn't thought of it that way before. He lay awake in bed for a long time. His mind was racing. He felt so alive. There was only one thing to do. I can't sleep. Come, snuggle. Come, Spoon. And so he did. Sweet dreams. So isn't that a lovely story? A wonderful, simple, but elegantly wise story. So one of the students, as I mentioned, found this book and brought it to share with us. And now I have the opportunity to share this with you. And it gives us, obviously, the lesson that our life is really how we perceive it. Our life is what we make of it. Things happen to us, and they are neutral. The things that come to us, the things that we have, our possessions, all of those things are pretty neutral. It's we who place judgment on those things. It's we who decide whether this is good or bad or something that we want or don't want. We are the ones that make those choices. And that's an important lesson that comes from Buddhism, it comes from reality. And if anything, Buddhism wants us to see our reality as it really is, to live with what we call non-duality. Now, duality is important, being able to make judgments in our everyday life. We can't function unless we do make choices, we make decisions. But from a spiritual and life standpoint, sometimes we need to not do that. We need to be thinking about what the things that come into our lives, how they tell us about ourselves, what they show us about life, to teach us important lessons. And so, hopefully, that is what the Buddhist lessons and the Buddhist teachings do for all of us. You know, the Buddha's main purpose in going out and seeking enlightenment was to solve the question of life's suffering. We all suffer. And it's not just sickness, old age, and death, but it's all the little ways that we find irritation, annoyance, disappointment, heartache. Those are the things that are a part of all of our lives. Nobody is immune from those. But how we choose to deal with those things that happen to us is what Buddhism is trying to teach us. How to deal with it in ways that we can transcend our heartache and longing and loneliness and disappointments, and find meaning in those things that happen to us. So, like Spoon and all of his friends, you know, they always looked at what other people had or what other utensils had, and needed to look at what was valuable and important in what their skills and talents were, and the things that they possessed that were so important. So, of course, we are all familiar with this image, and it's of course the proverbial glass half empty, half full. I have a hard time talking this morning. And we are told, you know, that we can look at it either in a negative way or a positive way. And you're urged to think about this as a glass half full, because it is probably a more positive way to look and live your life. Well, at this retreat, I also got another lesson about this glass. And it came from a very good friend of mine, Dr. Carmela Hirano, who she and I went through ordination in Japan together, and through that experience we have become very good friends. But she's also a psychiatrist, and she was at this youth retreat for the week and did a lot of sessions with the students, which I sat in on them. So I took a lot of important things away from her talk and her presentations with the youth, with all the youth there. But one thing that really stuck in my mind is she presented this glass to them. And she said, I have a third way for you to look at this glass. And I'd like to share that with you now. So I hope that maybe you can look at your life in that way as well. Which is not to say we don't strive, we don't want, we don't have goals and ambitions, but also step back and appreciate the things that we do have. I think if nothing else, Buddhism is a path of gratitude and appreciation. Please join me in Gassho.